Hey everybody, Foley here. Welcome to the weekly news recap for the 8th to the 14th of December 2025. All right, I'm turning the light on. So this week there was the Game Awards, or the Jeff ads, or whatever way you want to call them. That was on Thursday evening, Friday morning for me. I did not stay up. Anyway, we're going to go through some of the games. Well, we're going to go through all the games, but some of them I'll stop and play the trailer and what have you. Anyway, so starting with the preamble games, the Free Shepherd is kind of like, I don't know, open world border collie simulator kind of thing. You're playing a dog, you're running around and you're shepherding sheep. And it's very nice and very cozy looking. Decrepit we will play. So Decrepit looks a lot like first-person Dark Souls. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I was kind of thinking it was some kind of like dungeon crawler thing, maybe like one of the old school ones, but I think especially having the pinwheel skeleton kind of makes it seem like, yeah, we're going for a Soulsy type thing. There is talk in this trailer of like dying and starting again kind of thing. So whether that's the Dark Souls way of, you die and you go back to the last checkpoint, or is it a roguelite kind of thing? If you die and you literally go all the way back to the start. I don't know. It's not clear how big the game is. Most of the environments look kind of similar. So you're probably in this kind of castle environment for the most part. Anyway, Decrepit. No release date or anything like that, but it is available to wishlist. Audio Mech. It's a little bit Vib-Ribbon in some ways. It's like play your own music and it turns into like a bullet hell. So it also affects your character's abilities. So if you're playing, high beats per minute music, your character will be very powerful, but the level will also be really hard. So which way you want to go with it? Pragmata, it's releasing next year, and there's a demo now on PC, and only PC, as I want to try to play it on console, but no, it's a PC demo. Specifically, probably for performance checking on Capcom's part, since Monster Hunter didn't exactly perform great on PC. Seven Deadly Sins Origin we've seen a couple of times now, but it's a kind of open world JRPG based on the anime/manga. Not sure. I've never heard of it. Bradley the Badger was kind of interesting. So it's kind of billing itself as a satire parody of other video games. So it's a comical cartoon mascot type thing, but his game goes missing or something, and now he ends up in Bloodborne, basically. At least the first one, Badgerborn. Like, they're very much leaning into the satire and parody element of things. They're not trying to hide that this is definitely Bloodborne. This isn't the only game that they do this with. There's a couple of other games. I think there's a Last of Us as well. There's a Cyberpunk, I think, game. Now, how much of this is like real gameplay or like previs or whatever? I'd imagine none of it, to be honest, but just generally concepts of what the game will be. Cyber Badger. It's kind of a cyberpunk thing. It's the Last of Us one, which is actually a little bit like the Kirby game, Forgotten World. It's got a little bit of that going, which it's probably not supposed to, but anyway. And then randomly the Real World, which I doubt is actually in the game, but still. So Bradley the Badger, similarly, no release date, anything like that, but it's available to wishlist. Solasta 2, actually. I forgot to put the 2 in there. It's joining early access next year at some stage. So Solasta is like a top-down RPG, not unlike Baldur's Gate. Wuthering Waves is a gacha thing. We're going to keep going. Battlefield RedSec was a weird ad for their Battle Royale thing. Stupid Never Dies kind of gave me a Lollipop Chainsaw vibe. So it looks like you're playing some kind of undead guy who has a girlfriend, and the girlfriend keeps trying to kill him. Whether or not that's like the kind of gist of the game, I don't know, but it's a melee brawler type thing. I'm going to skip to like actual gameplay. So it's a melee brawler type thing. Your character can transform into some kind of big wolf. So it's Like, is he a werewolf or is he a zombie? I don't know. Maybe he's both. He's an undead werewolf, which would be interesting. But yeah, that's the kind of game it is. Like I said, the kind of vibe of it was like a lollipop chain, so it's a bit like a silly kind of teen romance with weird zombie stuff. Did he just suck off that? Did he just suck that guy off? Anyway, let's skip ahead. Tank Rat we've seen before, although I think it was called Tank Head previously. Anyway, Tank Rat is Pacific Drive, more or less, but you're a tank. So you're driving around finding parts for your tank instead of finding parts for your car. Okay, so into the main show. So Star Wars: Fate of the Old Republic is almost a blink and you'll miss it trailer. So the name should be familiar to some people, of the Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic, and so on. So this is Casey Hudson, original director of the original Knights of the Old Republic when he was with BioWare, is returning to make Fate of the Old Republic. They've just set up the studio, so there is kind of news going around that this game won't be out until like 2030 at the most. Because if anything, the game has pretty much just started. Casey Hudson has tried to say that that's not true. It will be out before 2030. Now, whether he means December 2029 or, 2027 or something like that, we don't know. But yeah, I would still say it's going to be a while before we see anything from this. And potentially this is another Elder Scrolls 6 situation where they've announced it way ahead of time. Anyway, this is kind of the gist of the trailer. And there's a close-up. We don't know who that is. Could be somebody we're supposed to know or not. This ship is familiar, and I don't know why. I'm wondering if it's from Knights of the Old Republic or Knights of the Old Republic 2. And when I first saw it, I thought it was a mass relay from Mass Effect, but it's not. Obviously, because it's Star Wars. But this ship looks super familiar, and I don't know why. Is it Darth Nihilus' ship? From KOTOR 2? I don't know, I need to check, but it looks really familiar to me. Anyway, Fate of the Old Republic. John Carpenter's Toxic Commando will be out next year. It's Left 4 Dead, more or less, but you drive around in a big armored truck with your friends. It looks like it's a bit of fun, anyway. Divinity, so you may have known... Oh god, I might actually get fucking demonetized with this video. Not that I care, but still. So you may have been following the weird statue out in the middle of the desert that nobody knew what it was about, but they knew it was attached to a video game of some kind. And Blizzard was saying it's not Diablo, and FromSoft were saying it's not us. Lords of the Fallen were saying it's not us, and so on. Yeah, it was Larian Studios. So their next game after Baldur's Gate 3, they're returning to Divinity, the Divinity series, and this game being called just Divinity. No subtitle, no sequel number, nothing. So Divinity Original Sin 2 was what they were working on and finished before Baldur's Gate 3. So they're going back to an IP that they own, and I guess they're going to take some of the knowledge that they got from making Baldur's Gate and bringing it into this. There is no gameplay in this trailer. The Divinity games play like Baldur's Gate. They're top-down tactical RPGs. I thought this was Diablo. And I thought these three effigies were meant to be the Lords of Hell kind of thing. So I was going... Because I knew there was a Diablo 4 announcement, and I assumed this was it. Because the CG was also really, really good. And this connection with the two planets, I thought also potentially was the Witcher conjunction of the spheres kind of thing. But that has happened already in the mythos. And Witcher 4 is a sequel, not a prequel. So it's not any of that. Anyway, I'm going to skip out of this trailer before it gets to rated R. But it gets a little bit fucked up. After that, the guy fucking melts, and there's people fucking around us, and there's a kid who's scared of all the thing, and then at the end, she's not scared. She says, laughing maniacally with everybody else, and then there's a weird, body horror thing where they all get formed into the shape of that statue. It's a cool trailer. It's a cool trailer, but yeah, I don't want this video banned, so I'm going to keep going. For Loop, I will not dignify with playing its trailer. It is Left 4 Dead but cyberpunk, or not even cyberpunk, cyber apocalypse, cyber post apocalypse, I guess. So this is the game that Sony are partnering with Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams. So it'll have a good premise, and that will be it, and will not be satisfying in any way to play, like everything J.J. Abrams makes. Like, it looks fine. It's a Left 4 Dead clone that has some kind of roguelike elements to it, and the for loop is a play on words of a software concept of looping a code. Anyway, Coven of the Chicken Feet is kind of a cozy type game, where it does have some elements of things like The Last Guardian. So you're playing this kind of grandma witch who has chicken feet. And if you're familiar with the Baba Yaga folklore, you'll know her house walks on chicken feet. And I think she herself has chicken feet. So it's possible you're playing Baba Yaga or a witch from the same coven or something like that. She seems a bit too nice to be Baba Yaga, so maybe not her. Anyway, you have this guy who helps you along. I'm not clear if this is fur or like dried leaves or something on his back. I'm assuming it's fur. And he seems to be like a companion NPC type thing that kind of follows you around and does stuff for you, but I don't believe you have direct control over him. So he kind of just does things for you. I mean, you ask him to do things and maybe he learns over time to do extra abilities. It seems like a very straightforward kind of game. There is a really fun thing he does here, and I'm curious if it's a scripted. It probably is scripted, but I'm curious if it is or isn't. Or maybe he just does it randomly. But yeah, he puts a helmet on her head, which I just think was really cute. But it'd be funny if he just like randomly brings you things in the environment and that kind of thing. Like, you could really do some very fun stuff there. I don't know if they would have the budget and time to do something like that, but I think it would be cool. Anyway, I'm just saying Last Guardian elements to it in that he seems like he's a bit of a protector and also maybe a bit evil sometimes. Anyway, Ontos is Soma 2, effectively, but it's not a direct sequel, but it's like spiritual successor kind of thing. So this is the game that Frictional had been teasing for a while, that was based on like a space motel that you could go to, and it was like really high end, and you could, while your weariness away or something like that. It was meant to be like a wellness type thing. Anyway, things have gone wrong when this wellness retreat, and we're gonna have the kind of horrible existential metaphysical stuff from Soma make its way back. And I'm sure it will be a bad time for everybody. But yeah, coming soon, no release date or anything like that. In news that should surprise absolutely no one, because it was a terribly kept secret, but yes, Leon S. Kennedy is in Resident Evil 9, Resident Evil Requiem. There's a little bit of maybe the main villain. Could just be Grace's villain, and maybe Leon has a different one, I don't know. They're just talking to each other, which obviously doesn't play well when I put everything on mute. But yes, Leon shows up here. I don't think he showed up that late into the trailer, but I guess he does. Yeah. So Leon is, one, he's in the game, and two, he is playable. I'm going to skip to the part where he's actually playable. Maybe I've skipped too far. I've skipped too far. I could have sworn there's a bit where they show an over-the-shoulder thing of Leon just shooting things. I'm just gonna wait this time because I missed it. No, I just missed it. Okay. Is it after the title? No? I'm guessing I'm blind, or did they fucking show a different trailer or something? Or a second trailer that actually had him doing things? Okay, weird. I swear to God, there was a there was definitely a bit of the Game Awards anyway where there was actual gameplay of him doing things. We don't know yet exactly how much gameplay is split between the two of them. If it's a mainly Grace Ashcroft game and Leon kind of has a section or two where you're playing as him, or if it really is a 50-50 kind of thing like Resident Evil 2 where you played as Leon in one scenario and played as Claire in another scenario. Although, yes, their gameplay was largely the same. Capcom have done this before, somewhat. Resident Evil 6, where there were very different campaigns, and the campaigns themselves had a very different tone. But they did still largely play the exact same. Whereas Grace's gameplay, since she's not a fighter, not combat equipped, and so on, would be mostly running away from things, a la maybe earlier survival horror games. Whereas Leon is a grizzled veteran at this point and still can't fucking grow a beard. It's obviously a bit more able to look after himself. Anyway, we don't know. But the game's out pretty soon, so we'll find out soon enough. I don't know what Order of the Sinking Star is. It clearly did not make an impression. Director of Braid and The Witness, that's probably why. It's a puzzle game, that's why it didn't make an impression. It's not that I don't like puzzle games, it's just I need to actually see the puzzles being played out properly before I can make a judgment on whether or not I want to play it. I'm sure it's fine. Exodus has a terrible title, honestly. I really think they should fix it, but I doubt they're going to. Anyway, Exodus is Mass Effect. But not attached to EA because they don't own the IP. But that's effectively what it is. It's a lot of former Mass Effect developers getting together to work on their own thing that definitely isn't Mass Effect. But that's effectively what they're going for. And yeah, it looks good. The thing that I just didn't like from the trailer is that, and this is like unfair because Mass Effect has been around for such a long time, but there was just a tremendous amount of world building and story and lore for Mass Effect just in the trailers themselves. Or at least I remember it that way. I could be wrong, but I remember it that way. And this just doesn't give me that kind of feeling. It also looks very Unreal. I mean, Unreal Engine kind of thing. Like they're not really putting their own stamp on it. I don't know. It could be good. I am skipping it around here, so you're not getting full appreciation for it. But, you know, who knows? They're certainly putting a lot of money into it. Anyway, similarly, we have a release window, which is just next year, really. Warlock is just fully CG, so I'm not going to... I suppose I did for Divinity, so I might as well. Yeah, so Warlock is the other game Wizards of the Coast are working on. And this one is fully a Dungeons & Dragons game, but it is a single-player action game. From the looks of it, there is no gameplay in this trailer. You will be, more than likely, playing a Warlock. If you have played D&D, you'll probably know what that means. If you haven't, Warlock is just a class type in Dungeons & Dragons, where they get their magic from making pacts with other, more powerful creatures. Most typically, it's the Raven Queen, gives you access to her magic, and in return, you become her envoy in some ways, her errand boy in other ways, and so on. So this is where all like the feather motifs are coming from, because I imagine they're gonna go with the Raven Queen. But no, it's not always. I mean, like D&D, you can just fucking make it up and be whatever you want. You know, your Warlock patron can be Thomas the Tank Engine if you want. Like, it's fully up to you and your DM to come up with who it is. But canonically in the games, it's usually the Raven Queen, but not always. Sometimes it's devils, and sometimes it's eldritch abominations and stuff like that. Anyway, it's fully CG. It is Trisha Helfer. You may have recognized the face playing the main character. But yeah, we don't have a gameplay reveal next year. Control 2 Resident, really, I mean, we knew they were working on Control 2, but this looks super close to finished, you know? So there was this little live action thing on the stage where they had this guy come in and he like contorts because of the hiss. If you've played the first game, you'll know what that means. But basically, there's an evil entity takes over his mind, kind of thing, and it is generally the main antagonist of the first game. So it does look like we're going to be playing that character, who is the Jesse Faden's brother, as who will be playing in Control 2. I'm not sure I like how the story is set up, because it seems like Jesse has gone evil, and the whole point of the first game is that she was able to resist all of this stuff, and if she's just randomly not able to resist it now, it feels a bit cheap. But it is Remedy. They typically have like pretty good reasons for their story changes and stuff like that, so benefit of the doubt. We find out when we play the game what's actually going on. I'm going to skip ahead to actual footage from the trailer. So there's a bit of like CG at the beginning. It is a bit like shenanigans happening in the Federal Bureau of Control. Physics and gravity shenanigans are going weird. It looks like the hiss got out. Even though I thought we had dealt with that by the end of Control, but I guess not. Something's gone wrong anyway, and Jesse has lost control. This seems to be the new weapon of the game. Jesse's was the gun that could like shapeshift and do lots of different things, and it looks like her brother's, I forget his fucking name now, but her brother's weapon will be this slide rule magnet looking thing. Anyway, she cuts his head off there, which you might think would make it difficult for him to be the protagonist of a video game. But no, I guess they bring him back, or he's in some kind of alternate dimension thing. But yeah, this thing that he has, I'm not sure what it's supposed to be, has some kind of magnetic element to it. And you'll see later now in the gameplay that he uses it mostly as a handle for other weapons. And as the first Control was a shooter for the most part, it does look like Control 2 is a melee type game. So yeah, it does seem like it's more of a melee action game as opposed to a shooting action game. But yeah, it does look trippy. It looks a bit, crazy and so on. And I am curious to see where they go with the story and the lore, because again, it's pretty fleshed out world building for the Federal Bureau of Control. So I'm curious to see where they go with it. But yeah, I'm not mad about what appears to be happening with Jesse. Anyway, moving on. Gang of Dragon, swear it was Yakuza. when I saw it, I was like, yeah, this is Yakuza, but no, apparently it's not. That probably hurt though. Anyway, Gang of Dragon is the fuck's his name now? Benedict Wong, being Kazuya Kiryu and beating the shit out of guys. That seems to be the deal of it. I'm gonna skip this stuff here, but he basically just kicks these guys' asses. I skipped to gameplay. Ooh, gameplay. I say I don't know how much of this is actually gameplay. Probably not very much. But it does seem like it is Yakuza, just not, just not by that developer. Yeah, we don't know when this is coming out. Animo, I think, largely went past and nobody really commented on it, but it's Animo is not Pokemon in the same way Palworld is not Pokemon. But yeah, it is that kind of game, although I don't think it has a capture mechanic, maybe just to avoid Nintendo's legal team. I think it has more of like a life sim type deal, but you have these definitely not Pokemon creatures. Anyway, this really should have a release date by now, but I don't think it does. No, it's still in closed beta. Street Fighter movie trailer was out. It's not a video game, so I'm going to skip it. Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight trailer is just showing off more of the game and that it's going to be out pretty soon. Warner Brothers being acquired by Netflix, it seems, isn't going to stop the game coming out, because I think the game will be out before the merger actually happens in the first place, so they should be okay. Double KO, it's coming to console, new character. The first of 2 Tomb Raider games, because yes, 2 of them for some reason. So Tomb Raider Catalyst is the first one. From the talk from the developers, it seems like it's a sequel to the Legend trilogy, which would be the PS2 games. So Tomb Raider Legend, Tomb Raider Anniversary, Tomb Raider Underworld. So Tomb Raider Catalyst is effectively number 4 in that series. So it's not the Survivor ones, which are the most recent ones. You know, Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. This is also our first look at their attempt to make a... What was it? They want to make a unified look for Lara Croft, I believe. And they were kind of working on that 2 or 3 years ago. Effectively, like, trying to take pieces from all of the different timelines and kind of merged them all together. So she's got kind of the more like higher cheekbones of like Angelina Jolie, but she's also got the necklace from the Survivor series. Clothing is a bit more muted, which is likely also from the Survivor series, but it's quite clearly got the green and brown from the original kind of looks and stuff like that. So they're trying to like incorporate a lot of it. I don't know. I'm so used to the Survivor face that like a new face is just kind of weird, but I'm sure I'll get used to it eventually. Anyway, not a huge amount of gameplay as you can see in the trailer. I imagine it will play like all of the other ones. You know, don't imagine it'll be anything different. This might actually be the first game Amazon actually get out though, so that'll be funny. Anyway, I said first of 2 because there's another one. Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis is coming out next year and is a remake of the original game. Oddly, is not using their unified look, which is a bit like, why did you bother with the unified look if you're not going to use it? But whatever. So yeah, it's a remake of the first game, which has like the T-Rex and Atlantis and so on. Oh, never mind. They do have the necklace. Anyway, a bit odd that they have like the Tomb Raider remastered games and then they're also just straight up remaking the game as well. Like, it's fine. I'll probably play it, but having 2 Tomb Raider games back to back, bit concerning. Like, granted, they're remaking a game, so it's largely like, you know, concept art is done and... Well, it's not done, obviously. They need to update it for modern hardware and what have you, but like, the scenarios or whatever are sorted out. The puzzles are sorted out, kind of thing. Like, might have to change them up a little bit, but maybe not a huge amount of extra work compared to like a fully new game like Catalyst. But that's not to say there isn't a huge amount of work on in here. Like, obviously there is a crazy amount of work. But yeah, having 2 games back to back, why wouldn't you stagger them? I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, Tomb Raider Legend of Atlantis, the remake will be next year, some point. I think it just has a year on it. I don't think it has an actual date. And Tomb Raider Catalyst will be the year after. Phasmophobia is coming to Switch 2. That's it. That's the news. Elemental, great name, is joining the Invincible Versus game. Forest 3 is a thing. I didn't know there was a Forest 1 and 2. Looks like a survival scavenging type thing, which is not really something I care about. Orbitals I kind of like the look of, because it's kind of like a throwback to like 80s anime in some ways, and the animation kind of reflects that. Like, it's like a stilted, low frame rate animation, which doesn't sound like it would be a good thing, but it like plays really well in the game, or at least the gameplay of what we're seeing. And on top of that, it looks like it is a compulsory co-op game. So like It Takes Two and like Split Fiction, it can only be played in co-op. Which again leads to like interesting gameplay mechanics when you know that like there has to be a second player. I think it plays a little bit differently. Anyway, don't think there's a release date. It's just coming to the Switch 2 at some point next year. Soulframe kind of dropped by to remind people it exists, or doesn't exist, I suppose, technically, since the game isn't out yet. But there's still a Founders thing. It's effectively an early playtest. Diablo 4, The Lord of Hatred expansion. Yeah, as I said, like, I thought the CG looked really good in the Divinity one, which is why I thought it was Blizzard. But no, it's not. This one's Blizzard. I probably should have known when they started fucking, because Diablo has gotten so tame In comparison, like, yeah, it's fully on the gore and body horror or what have you. They're fine with that, but they definitely have downplayed the more sexual connotations of demons and devils and like that kind of temptation, lust, what have you. They just doesn't really come up in the Diablo series since 2, really. Anyway, Lord of Hatred, Mephisto. If you've been following the story, this was somewhat inevitable. New character class is the Paladin. I think there is another one that'll be coming later. And I think you can play the Paladin right now. And the expansion is on its way later. Anyway, yeah, Mephisto comes out. He's a big scary guy. There you go. Yeah, April. Yeah, so I think you can play the Paladin now. And then when the expansion drops, you'll be able to play the other class. I don't think we know what it is yet. Marvel Rivals, Deadpool's the next season. It's Deadpool and some character I don't know. Which is odd for me, because I almost feel like I know all of the major Marvel characters, and I don't know this one. Maybe you guys do. Hang on. I'll show you. Maybe you guys know who it is. It's a woman, a sniper, and I felt like she had a kind of military outfit, and I may be misremembering that. Oh wait, I do know who she is. Shit. I don't know her name. I do know who she is. I think she works mostly with the more like devil and like hell side of Marvel. I don't know her name though. Anyway. 007 First Light just revealed that Lenny Kravitz is the main villain, but it was a fully CG trailer, and I'm not going to bother with it. Lords of the Fallen 2, also coming soon, and apparently will have sexy ladies, according to the CEO, who decided to put out a press release to say that there will be sexy ladies. Specifically, that's it. That was the press release. Anyway, moving on. Neo 3, again, similarly, it's coming soon. Pretty early next year. Saros actually slipped in a delay, and I don't think a lot of people noticed, but it has actually been delayed like a month, maybe 2 months. But yeah, a bit more Saros gameplay. It very much is Returnal 2, with maybe a bit more of a coherent storyline. Yeah, it's looking good. The shield mechanic seems to be kind of interesting, which wasn't something that was in the original Returnal. And I'm curious if the shield mechanic is maybe a way to make the game a little bit more accessible to people who aren't bounce off it when you just get killed over and over again. Maybe it's I mean, you're obviously going to be killed over and over again because that's the kind of premise of the game. But, you know, maybe you actually want to make some progress every time you die. Anyway, yeah, it's been delayed probably about a month because I think it was meant to come out in March. It's out in April now. No Law is from the same developer behind The Ascent, which was an isometric twin-stick shooter set in a kind of cyberpunk tower, which I thought was a cool game. Maybe a bit too hard to play solo, which is how I played it, so I had to play it on mega easy baby mode, but otherwise I kind of enjoyed it. This is similarly a cyberpunk dystopian kind of thing, but change of perspective. So it's going to be a first-person perspective thing, and it does look... I'm kind of hoping it's going for an immersive sim. I feel like maybe not. It might have some immersive sim elements, but I don't think it'll be fully like that. I do think it's going to be sort of a stealthy first-person thing, or at least have stealth mechanics in it. Anyway, it's very much John Wick. You know, old guy who's who's not in the game anymore, gets the shit kicked out of him, and decides... You know what? I'm gonna kick the shit out of you guys instead. How about that? You killed my dog or something. But yeah, like kind of stealthy Deus Ex stuff. It's a bit like vigilante, old man vigilante kind of thing. There's a Metal Gear in it for some reason. Yeah, so how much of it is like full-on first-person shooter gun action stuff, and how much of it is stealthy, how much of it is maybe immersive sim, RPG elements, what have you. The original Ascent, while it had an interesting story, it never really leaned into it too much. And I think that was largely because it was meant to be a co-op game. They don't want to have people stuck in narration trees for too long. But since this more than likely is going to be single player, Can't imagine. If it was going to be co-op, I feel like they would have shown it here. Yeah, so maybe they'll be able to lean a little bit more into that. I don't think it had a release date though, does it? No, it's just wishlist. Wishlist for everything except the Switch. It finally happened. Total War are doing Warhammer 40k. It's like, I can't believe this hasn't happened before. But it's happening now. Okay. Ace Combat, been gone a while since Ace Combat 7, so Wings of Thief, the next Ace Combat game. It sure looks like Ace Combat. Hitman World of Assassination has a new elusive target. It's Mila Jovovich. Well, not really, but yes, really. Anyway. Star Wars Galactic Racer. Swear to God, I kept thinking it was pod racers. And I was saying, no, that's a pod. It's not. I don't think there were any pod racers in this whole trailer, but I kept saying it was a pod racer. Anyway, this is pod racing. Yeah, Star Wars Galactic Racer is from some of the devs behind the Burnout series. So you're kind of hoping that it will at least play very well. But yeah, we don't know what kind of racing game it's going to be. Is it going to be your standard, closed tracks, do a couple of laps, whoever's in first place is the winner by the end of it? Or is it going to be like a cross-country kind of thing? You just need to get from point A to point B to win. Or maybe a Mario Kart World thing, and it's somewhat open world until you drop into the races, and then it's a course. But yeah, we don't know. But it does seem like it's a lot of different types of vehicles. So not specifically pod racing. And again, I don't think there was a pod in this, but Sebulba is in the trailer. So presumably there will be a pod somewhere. Why would you take a speeder bike into this kind of race? Why would you take anything into a Star Wars race? Because it goes so fucking fast. There's no way you're surviving it. Anyway, as you can see, it's mostly CG. Maybe some of it is gameplay. Who knows? And yeah, Sebulba's in it. And Sebulba looked old, so it must be after Star Wars 6. Actually, yeah, there was a crashed Imperial Star Destroyer there, so yeah, it must be. Out of Words is another co-op game we've seen a couple of times. The characters are mute. I'm not sure if that also carries across to the gameplay. Like, can you not do voice chat somehow? I don't know. Phantom Blade Zero showed off a little bit more gameplay and has a release date eventually. I'm just gonna skip to like gameplay somewhere. Anyway, it's somewhat Soulsy and somewhat Dynasty Warriors in some ways. In like the regular grunts, not particularly difficult, but the bosses, yeah, very difficult. Maybe that's what I'm getting from it. I mean, it could be fucking Ninja Gaiden and everything is rock hard. But who knows? Anyway, I'm gonna skip to the end because I don't remember what the release date is. Oh yeah, I should remember that one because it was a date that satisfies everybody, or it could be wrong. Who knows? Is it the 9th of September? No, I mean it's definitely the 9th of September. Actually, never mind. I was gonna say like it reads differently in the US, but it doesn't. That was the whole point of them having two 9s. Anyway, yeah, Mega Man. Just randomly, there's a new Mega Man game. Okay, Capcom have been sleeping on it for like fucking I don't even know how long. Not much in the trailer. There's this quick kind of CG thing to wake up Mega Man again. And then yeah, it looks very old school Mega Man. But that does seem like what it is, like a glow up from one of the OG Mega Mans. So it's Mega Man Dual Override. We don't know what that means. Is it a case that Mega Man can swap modes or something? You can see like he has like, you see it there in the trailer, like he pops out his services and stuff. So it's maybe there's some extra mode he has when he's like that or something. I don't know. Maybe there's a second character and they haven't shown them yet. But anyway, again, Super Mario Galaxy movie trailer. It's not a video game, so I'm gonna skip it. And then but wait, there's one more thing. Was this. Anyway, this is Highguard. It's not Overwatch, even though they are a synonym for each other, and it does feel like, hey, we want to make Overwatch, but we obviously can't call it Overwatch. What's another word for Overwatch? Anyway, it's another fucking hero shooter with a non-distinct art direction. Because we're going fantasy, but we also have guns, and there's also like cyber stuff going on here as well. Clearly futuristic architectures in some ways, and some ways it's not. And it's like, what is this? What are we going for here? Some of the characters obviously clearly have tech, and some of them don't. Some of them are like clearly magical creatures. We got this woman, so I mean they've got that going for them. But otherwise, I'm not sure what else they have. It's a raid PvP thing, so you both have the base, and you're both trying to destroy the base, get in, you know, capture the flag in some ways, or not capture the flag. Yeah, just raid their base. And it's like, how many of these games do we have? And I know it's like this game would have started development like years ago. It's not like they started development yesterday. But I feel like it's not that we, you know, you can't have any more of these games or anything. Like, nobody says there's too many RPGs, so everyone needs to stop making RPGs, or there's too many. Well, I say there's too many card deck building roguelikes, but still, people don't necessarily say to not make any more. But these require so much more upfront than like those other games. Like, you can get away with all of those games single player base, and like drip feed a player base. In some cases you still get away with it, whereas these kind of games require a massive player base, like right from the start, in order to keep them going. You know, high server costs, stuff like that. Debatable how high those server costs are, but you know, that's what we hear about, and that's why it makes it like more difficult and to say that, yeah, keep making hero shooters, because you know, because if you buy an RPG that, say, flops, also it's free to play and out in like next month. But if you buy like an RPG that flops, you still have the RPG. You can still play it. If you buy a card deck building roguelike thing that is the 100th deck building roguelike that came out that month, you still have the game. You know, whereas Highguard, if it doesn't do well, now granted it's free to play, and in this case that's the point is kind of moot. But you don't have the game anymore if it flops. You know, the end of they close down the servers and that's the end of it. So there's a little bit more to say, like maybe stop making these games for a while. Let people play the game they're already playing, I suppose. They only have so much time, and we talked about this before, how live services are grindy by necessity in some ways. Not even necessity, but just to keep you there, keep you engaged and looking at the shop, and maybe you'll spend some money. Like, yeah, I don't know. I have to stop every time I see that scene. Anyway, I'm going to skip ahead. You guys know the argument already. Like, it's not that you should stop making these kind of games. It's just give it a minute. Maybe try something else. Anyway, that was it for the Game Awards. And I was asked what was the thing I was actually most hyped about. But I didn't have all the games to hand. So, yeah, oh yeah, Highguard, definitely. No. Let's see. Mega Man, Phantom Blade, no. You know, I think annoyingly it's going to be Fate of the Old Republic, even though it's a billion years away. No Law, actually. I really like the look of it, and I really have wanted to play like a new Deus Ex, but they won't make one. So there's that. No. Once they turned Diablo into a live service, I kind of started ignoring it. Orbitals, but I would need a friend, and I don't really have one of those, so... Yeah, the Tomb Raider games as well. I do like... I mean, I'm a little bit concerned that they're back-to-back, but... And we didn't see any actual gameplay from Catalyst. Gang of Dragon, it really does look like it's just Yakuza. Control. Yeah, again, little concerned where they're going with the story, but I'm sure the gameplay will be fine. Ish. Actually, I don't think Remedy have ever done a Melee game before, so maybe not. Exodus really feels like it's resting on its laurels. It's not really wowing me. Resident Evil, yes, but I was already hyped for that. I don't think that counts. Antos, yeah, I'm ready to have my mind shattered once again. Divinity, I think we need to see gameplay. But yes, very much yes. Fate of the Old Republic, yeah. There was no gameplay or anything, but you put fucking Of the Old Republic on it, and I'm probably gonna go near it. Bradley the Badger. We just need to see like real gameplay and not faked up gameplay. Fake CG to make it look like gameplay. And like Pragmatic we've seen a few times, and yes, I am hyped for it. Yeah, like of the games that they showed that actually had gameplay, probably Control. Because I don't think any of the other ones had actual gameplay in them. On Toss, it's a little difficult to tell which part of that was actually gameplay. Oh yeah, No Law showed gameplay as well, I suppose. So yeah, those two. Yeah, No Law and Control. Resonant. Anyway, that wasn't the only showcase during the week. There was also Day of the Devs. So again, we'll run through this, but I didn't mean to spend so much time there on the Game Awards, so we're going to go a little bit faster on this. Escape Academy 2, Back to School. Hang on, is it Escape Academy Back to School, or is it Escape Academy 2 Back to School? Are they using the 2 twice? No, it's Escape Academy Back to School. Anyway, it's an open world Escape Academy, or an open world escape room kind of thing. So like multiple puzzles, go in different directions. If you get stuck on one, go move on to another puzzle kind of thing. Sleep Awake is already out. They were just talking about the soundtrack. Oasis, I think it's a Melee game. But again, oh yeah, it's like this kind of top-down brawler type thing. It's like a top-down Castle Crashers in some ways. It looked okay, but yeah, it's another kind of you need a friend or several friends. Lucid Falls. I highlighted this one, so I must have thought it was interesting. So yeah, kind of first-person lucid dreaming, but you're stuck in the dream. Something, Snake Eater. Yeah, I think I just like the art direction for it. It looks trippy and also really like high fidelity. So I quite like the look of it more than anything else. What kind of game it is, I don't know. I'm hoping it's not a run away from the creature game, because I fucking hate them so much at this point. There's too many. It's too many horror games that just run away from the creature, and I don't want to play that. You know, scare me a different way, please. Anyway, Lucid Falls, I don't think has a release date. Yeah, it's just wishlist. I don't remember what Rock Beasts is. I think it's just like a rhythm game. Oh yeah, it's a rhythm. It's a rhythm game that's also like a band management kind of thing. Stretchmancer was pretty cool, but I think we've seen it before. But the idea is it's a puzzle game that is wrapped in a sort of Saturday morning cartoon vibe. But your character, the Stretchmancer, can stretch the environment. So he makes the bars wider so he can fit through them, kind of thing. You know, moving platforms and making them bigger, making them wider so they can, you know, touch different surfaces and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a cool gimmick. I'm interested to try it out. Virtue and a Sledgehammer is the next game from... I'm not sure. Maybe they'll tell me in the trailer. I know it's from a developer who has a lot of like introspective and existentialism type games, and the idea with Virtue and a Sledgehammer is I think it's kind of like a post-robot thing, and you're getting over your insecurities and problems by beating the shit out of robots. That seems to be the kind of general gist of the game. Maybe a robot killed somebody that you like, I don't know. Apparently the brave option is beating the shit out of robots. I don't know. That's your therapy. Therapy via Sledgehammer. They don't appear to be hostile. Like, they could just be trying to hug you. You don't know. Anyway. I forget what the other game they made is. I was kind of hoping they'd say from the people who brought you yada yada yada. I don't remember now. I don't know. It's from another developer who made another game that I really like. I just can't remember what it is. Bistro is a cooking game that is also partially a roguelike dungeon crawler in some ways. So you make food for adventurers, and then the adventurers go off and have their adventure, and they come back and then they tell you about the adventure, and them telling you about the adventure is actually you playing the adventure in the memory. And depending on what food you gave them, that's what gives them their different abilities and sets their stats and stuff like that. Unme is another kind of first-person horror type thing. The idea with Unme is that you have multiple souls in your body, is the way the game is pointed out, but like multiple personalities, probably another way to look at it. And you're making your way through environments, and each personality has different things that they're afraid of. And the game will randomly swap you into different personalities. So in some cases, it might randomly swap you into one where they're not fazed by whatever it is. Not fazed by horrible, creepy nurses. And maybe it'll randomly swap you into one that very much is afraid of what's coming up, kind of thing. And it is a survival horror type situation. But one interesting gimmick is that you can, during the game, like, delete the personalities in an attempt to find your character's true personality. And I think the kind of general gist of it is you might make a mistake. I'm sure when you play the actual game, it will either turn out that none of them are real, or it doesn't make a difference. But anyway, it's interesting enough. Soundgraphs is a kind of sound-based adventure type game. Dungeon experience, you probably won't get the full appreciation for the trailer because it is a comedy. Nice. Anyway, dungeon experience is kind of a satirical kind of thing where you're kind of in like an amusement park, I guess, that is also a kind of adventure game at the same time. But I do think it's mostly just like a delivery vehicle for comedy more than anything else. It's hard to say how much of this is actual gameplay and how much of this is, he has big nipples to press as a button. Like how much of this is the actual game and how much of this is just shenanigans. Not clear. Anyway, this is the dungeon experience. Scramble Knights Royale. It's a battle royale in the year of our Lord. We got two that they don't have the trailer for, so that's good. Corgi Space is a collection of like just fun small games from the same guy who developed Cannibalt. Into the Fire we've seen a few times. It's driving into an active volcano and trying to rescue people, but it's a volcano. Dogpile is kind of match 3 with dogs, and I think is actually out as well. I'm just going to skip to bits of gameplay. But yeah, it's a match 3 game. Or not a match 3 game, sorry. It's a match 2 game, I guess. The dogs combine to become bigger dogs. That's basically the gist of it. And then it has a little bit of a Balatro kind of thing to it. You know, you get crazy power-ups and crazy gimmicks and mechanics that make the game kind of, break itself and stuff like that. Unshine Arcade or Sunshine Arcade, I don't remember. That was a very short trailer. Okay, I guess you're playing in a old haunted arcade, maybe. Moomin Troll Winter's War is another Moomin game. So there was Snufkin, Welcome to Moomin Valley, and then Moomin Troll is the next one. Demon Tides has been coming out for a million years. It is a kind of a speedrun platforming kind of game. So the idea is there are many different ways, many different types of locomotion that you can chain together, and you just have like a repertoire of different abilities and just, do platforming elements based on that kind of thing. So it's like very customizable, and you can get around the way you want to get around rather than relying on a small element of, or a small like handful of different locomotion abilities. I don't know how well that will play out. They already have a game, Demon Turf, that I think plays much the same, and Demon Tides is just a bigger version, a sequel. So 19th of February for that. Frog Squad, I think, is a bit like Fall Guys, but you're a frog. Astromine sounds like what it is. I guess it's like a mining game with like a voxel stuff to it. Yeah. Okay. So it's Minecraft, more or less. It's pretty much Minecraft, I think. Find your words is kind of an interesting thing where you're kind of getting concepts of words and stuff like that you need to stitch together to be able to talk to people, and the more people you talk to, the more words you learn. But I think it's more of like a kind of cozy, somewhat accessibility advocating game. People of note is Rhythm singing game, and that was that. Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't think there was really much there in Day of the Devs that I was really interested in personally. Lucid Falls, but I don't actually know what kind of game it is, so it's hard to say. And I think Stretchmancer, I kind of like the gimmick, and I like the presentation as a Saturday morning cartoon kind of thing. And Unme, again, similarly, I kind of like the idea of it. I'm not sure if I'd actually like the game itself. Anyway, those are some of the games. Sorry, outside of those showcases, and there were even more showcases. I'm not going to get into all of them. But this is Spirit Crossing. So Spirit Crossing is by Spry Fox, and Spry Fox were formerly owned by Netflix, but Netflix have sold them back to themselves. It's great how that can work. Anyway, and at the time, Netflix was mostly into making just mobile games because they absolutely flopped making anything else. So they were really focusing on just making mobile stuff. So Spirit Crossing was in early access, beta, whatever, for Android and iOS. And this trailer is mostly just to say that it's also coming to PC now. So Spirit Crossing is kind of Animal Crossing in a lot of ways. Like a slightly more of an emphasis on multiplayer. I was talking about nobody making a new Deus Ex game, and they're not even going to make the old Deus Ex game anymore. After a rough reveal, Deus Ex Remastered gets an indefinite delay, with existing pre-orders refunded. Existing pre-orders refunded is probably the more interesting thing here, because it probably means the game's dead. So it was revealed in September this year that they were effectively going to remaster the original game, and it didn't look great. It looked really bad, actually. It really did look like they just took the first game and dumped it into Unreal Engine, and then didn't do anything else. I'm sure they did, but that's not what it looked like. Anyway, 3 months later, the game has been delayed indefinitely, in fact. So coming from the developer themselves, Aspire. Thank you to the community for your feedback following the reveal of Deus Ex Remastered. We listened to what you said in order to better meet fan expectations and deliver the best possible experience for players. Deus Ex Remastered will no longer launch on the 5th of February 2026. Anyone who has pre-ordered the game receives a full refund. Like, that's the worrying part. Like, even fucking Duke Nukem didn't refund pre-orders. Like Metroid Prime 4 didn't refund pre-orders, and those games have been in development for millions of years. Now, they did eventually come out, I suppose, whereas this one is refunding pre-orders. So it does sound like the game is maybe not happening anymore. It's also a little concerning because Aspire are supposed to also be doing the Knights of the Old Republic remake, and we haven't heard anything about that either in quite a while. Anyway, moving on. So, start of the month, the PlayStation Plus game catalog for PlayStation Plus Essential is being refreshed, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good this month. So, Assassin's Creed Mirage is the kind of throwback to the original Assassin's Creed games. Plays a lot more like Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and 3. Then Wulong Fallen Dynasty is from the same developers behind the Neo games, so it's a bit of a Dark Souls kind of thing, but more Chinese mythology as opposed to Japanese mythology. Skate Story, which, as you can see here, is a day one release. We will talk about in the new releases section. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink is a pretty big JRPG, which I think is pretty cool. It does have a little bit too much like management, in my opinion, but otherwise it's a pretty solid JRPG. Planet Coaster 2 is Roller Coaster Tycoon, basically. Cat Quest 3 is a kind of fun 2.5D open world RPG kind of thing. It's a very kind of silly kind of game. Lego Horizon Adventures had already been added to the PlayStation Plus catalog, and I guess is now available for the every tier now of PlayStation Plus, which suggests that maybe it didn't do that well. Paw Patrol carts, from the looks of it. Even more Paw Patrol things. Paw Patrol World. Oh god, no thank you. And then in premium... Oh wait, is this not the monthly thing? Oh no, we've had the monthly games already. This is the premium and extra catalog. Right. I was wondering why there were so many games. Okay, so this is for the premium and extra tiers, not the essential tier. It's already in there. Lego Horizon Adventures was already in the essential tier. It's just being added to the other two tiers. I was wondering why there was a premium thing, because that's not usually part of the essential breakdown. Anyway, Soul Calibur 3 is a pretty solid fighting game. Still not as good as Soul Calibur 2. And whatever fucking movie credit over Christmas, I guess. Over on the Epic Games Store, the free game this week is Hogwarts Legacy. Pretty big game to get for free. And I believe Epic are doing some kind of free giveaway thing for the Christmas period. So keep an eye on the store. I think they're giving away like a free game every day kind of thing that they've done before. So keep an eye on that. Anyway, those are some of the games you can play soon. What if you want to play something right now? Well, Skate Story, as we were talking about. It's part of the PlayStation Plus catalog. If you have the extra tier. So Skate Story is... the general gist of the story is you are a glass demon, or the glass demon, maybe, who's also into skateboarding. Seems like a mistake waiting to happen. And you're trying to get to the moon because you want to eat it or something. I don't know. You're just trying to get to the moon. Maybe you think it's made of cheese. Who knows? But yeah, it's a skateboarding game. It's a puzzle game and a skateboarding game. I don't know why you would be a skateboarding glass demon. That seems like a mistake. From what I've seen from reviews, it is pretty solid overall, with some maybe unfair puzzles going through it. Anyway, that's Skate Story. And we have Death Howl. So I was trying to talk about Death Howl last week, and I was like, I actually don't know what it is, so I stopped talking about it. I do know what it is now. It's a kind of Souls-y tactical game. So it's like a tactical RPG that is very, very hard. that's basically it. I think it is like Scandinavian folklore that they're going with. Yeah, but I feel like it is, as you can see, it's like card-based, so somewhat like randomized abilities, tactical combat, but it does also have an element of like checkpointing and dying and going back to the last place you sat down at kind of thing, which is more of the Soulsy element. Whether you lose any resources when you die, I don't know. But yeah, that's the kind of game it is. Artwork is really nice, but I don't really like deck builders. They just frustrate me. I don't like them. Unbeatable. Unbeatable is a kind of rhythm action visual novel in some ways. So a lot of the game is like this kind of rhythm action stuff, and then a lot of it after that is just like an adventure elements to it. You're in an environment where music is outlawed. I think you've probably heard this story before, and you're starting a new band, and the authorities are like, no music bad. And I don't think it's music bad. I think it's your particular genre of music is bad. I think that's what the deal is. Anyway, again, art is amazing. The presentation is really nice, and the music's pretty good. I played the demo. I quite enjoyed it. Anyway, that's Unbeatable. Angeline era is kind of from a bygone age of top-down adventure games, not unlike some of the Zelda games. What's kind of interesting about Angeline era is, as they said there, every level is in plain sight. You just have to figure out how to get to it. So it's somewhat like Tunic in that way. And also combat is kind of interesting in that you don't really have like an attack or a swing or anything. You just sort of walk into things and you attack them. That's kind of the way it works, which is a bit silly. And story-wise, I'm not sure the exact gist of the story, but I know it has some elements of Irish folklore to it. I don't know how many, because I'm not really recognizing anything here, but allegedly it has some Irish folklore elements to it. That will be enough to get me to try it. I'm shallow like that, I suppose. Anyway, moving on. Terminator 2D No Fate is kind of throwback to the old Nintendo, Super Nintendo Terminator games. And from what I've read of reviews, yeah, that's true. From what I've read reviews, what was one of them was like, it's the best game of 1996 or something. It's the best shooter of 1996 or something like that. Yeah, it's like old school game design, but like done very well. So I guess depending on how much patience you have for hard as fuck and limited checkpoints and all of that kind of stuff. What's interesting is it's not just playing out the stories that you can, as you saw there, you can change the story as well, and it will try to adapt as best it can. Anyway, the game was delayed a couple of times, but it is finally out, and for the most part, seems decent. But definitely some of the reviews have been like, this is very Super Nintendo, pretty much. And then, yes, hell has in fact frozen over. Microsoft Flight Simulator is on PlayStation as of a couple of days ago. The VR port, I don't think, is ready yet. But otherwise, the main game is in it. Lots of different things for you to fly around with it and go, ooh, and oh, that part is generative AI. Gross. Anyway, unfortunately, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games, the video game industry. So, somewhat good news. id Software workers form wall-to-wall union in response to mass Xbox layoffs. Seem to have lost my highlights on this page, so that's good. Right. Anyway, so id Software, the guys behind Doom and the Rage games and so on, have formed a wall-to-wall union. 165 of the studio's 185 employees all signed union cards, which makes it kind of overwhelming in that point. So they're going to team up with Communication Workers of America, which is pretty much all of the US unions have been joining that. Some of the Canadian ones, I think, have been joining it as well. So this is coming from software producer and organizing committee member. The wall-to-wall organizing effort at id Software was much needed. It's incredibly important that developers across the industry unite to push back on all the unilateral workplace changes that are being handed down from industry executives. So what kind of changes are we talking about? The remote work stuff. Remote work isn't a perk. It's a necessity for our health, our families, and our access needs. Return to office policies should not be handed down from executives with no consideration for accessibility or our well-being. There's a much longer interview over in Aftermath, but Aftermath is paywalled. And I don't feel comfortable showing paywalled articles. I don't know. I know how I've been meaning to reach out to them about whether that's okay or not. Anyway, some other things that they were kind of talking about is that a lot of the push to unionize in the first place was kind of because of all the mass layoffs that Microsoft were doing. The fear of studio closures, the mass layoffs, the oppressive implementation of generative AI all fueled the workers to take collective action. Began rallying after Bethesda shut down Arcane and Tango, that this was a wake-up call for a lot of people. The games industry fate has fallen in the hands of Ivy League MBAs, as I've been saying for a long time, and I'm not the only one, it's quite obvious anyway. With little experience making or even playing video games, people decided it was time that we took our future into our own hands. So, a couple of things that they're hoping to change and negotiate on now that they have a union is the remote work stuff. extra benefits, childcare, guardrails for the use of AI technology. I guess they can't say specifically to just get rid of it. Microsoft's AI mandates aren't being implemented in a careful enough way to have it be beneficial. AI protections procured by ZeniMax workers last year were also kind of key for them going, okay, yeah, let's try to make sure that happens here as well. And then there's another thing about whether they'll talk about Microsoft aiding Israel or not, but I don't think that's really part of the story. I don't know. I don't know if they will. Anyway, moving on. Speaking of Doom, Doom co-creator John Romero's shooter was a casualty of Microsoft's cuts. Also speaking of Microsoft's cuts, I guess, but it's being completely redesigned into a smaller game. So he was talking at a game festival in Spain over the weekend, and it was like, what's going on with your current game? There was kind of rumors that it had been cancelled because Microsoft pulled funding. And yeah, it has. Despite losing staff after Microsoft suddenly pulling funding for their next shooter amid mass layoffs this summer, they are planning to continue on. So the new game has nothing to do with the previous game, but it incorporates a lot of the elements that we had in the previous game. So we're not starting at ground zero. We have 50 million worth of a game that we can take pieces out of and put into a brand new indie game. I mean, that's kind of the way of just reusing assets. And since the game never actually came out, they're not really reusing assets, technically, from the consumer standpoint. You've never seen them before. It's a smaller game, and I'm not really mad about this quote, because anyway, it's more fun for us because the people working on it were all directors of different departments, and they didn't actually get to code or design or whatever, do it themselves. And so now we get to actually do that, do the thing that we're really good at ourselves. It's like, yeah, that is good, but you also put them in those director positions. And also, the only reason they get to work on that is because of all of the mass layoffs. It's not great. It's not a great quote. Anyway. Speaking of people who've been in the video game industry for a very long time, I guess. Tekken boss Katsuhiro Harada says he's leaving Bandai Namco this month, so you may know him. Tekken boss. He's been working on the series since Tekken 1 in various capacities. Executive director and executive producer on the Tekken series since Tekken 4 or something like that, I think. I'd like to share that I'll be leaving Bandai Namco at the end of 2025, with the Tekken series reaching its 30th anniversary, an important milestone for a project I've devoted much of my life to. I felt this was the most fitting moment to bring one chapter to a close. He's worked on it since its inception. He did like frame data tweaking and stuff on the original game, and then was in like designer. Oh, he was director. Oh, never mind. He was director from Tekken 3. I thought it was Tekken 4 he started directing it. Anyway. Yeah, started directing it from Tekken 3, and arguably Tekken 3 is maybe one of the better ones. But I thought these were like kind of nice quotes. So my roots lie in the days when I supported small local tournaments in Japanese arcades and in small halls and community centers overseas. Still remember carrying arcade cabinets by myself, encouraging people to please try Tekken, and directly facing the players right in front of me. Even after the tournament scene grew much larger, many of you continued to treat me like an old friend, challenging me at venues, inviting me out for drinks at bars. Those memories are also deeply precious to me. But like, why is he quitting or retiring? It's basically like, it's a little bit all my friends are dead in some ways. In recent years, I experienced the loss of several close friends. In my personal and professional life, I witnessed the retirement or passing of many senior colleagues who I deeply respect. These accumulated events on my time have had me wondering like what time I have left as a creator. But yeah, he's gradually handed over responsibilities, etc., etc. Last thing he'll be doing, the Tekken World Tour thing, which takes place early next month. But that will be the last thing he'll be doing officially for Bandai Namco. So that's a bit. I mean, like, yes, eventually people do have to retire or die in some cases, but 30 years, and since Tekken 3 all the way up to Tekken 8, and arguably since Tekken 1, like, he is Tekken at this point. Like, whatever, if there is a Tekken 9, it's going to be the first one without him. Like, it's going to be very scary, I think, for those developers to take it on. Anyway, speaking of scary for developers, maybe? No? Anyway, UK Prime Minister describes Rockstar dismissals as deeply concerning. So the whole Rockstar thing has made its way all the way to UK Parliament. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has confirmed UK ministers will look into this particular case of something that I can't read. Particular case of supposed union busting at Rockstar. So this was brought up during leader questions, I think. The MP, Scottish Labour's MP for Edinburgh East, Chris Murray, who would be the MP for the area where the Rockstar offices are. If all companies, regardless of profit and size, must follow UK employment law and all workers have the rights to join a union. He had met with Rockstar, but they failed to reassure him that they are following employment law. So, having brought all that up, Prime Minister responded that we're determined to strengthen worker rights and ensure that they don't face unfair consequences for being part of a union. And the rest of this is just to kind of recap you on the Rockstar story, but I don't think I need to do that because I only talked about it last week. And if you don't know, go look it up. They were fired for union busting. No, they were fired for union busting? No, they were fired because they wanted to form a union. Their firing was union busting. That's what it was. So yeah, I mean, in one way, like, it's good that it's getting the kind of visibility, like, all the way at the top. At the other side of it is that Labour in the UK right now are Labour in name only. They are very much just Tory 2. In a lot of ways. Which I don't know how they got that from the UK election. It was very clear that the UK public had completely rebuked the Tory manifesto in many, many ways. And Labour just said, nah, I could do it right though, I guess. Despite their name, Labour, coming from Labour unions and so on, they're not really like that. They're very much neo-lib. Neocon in some ways, or just full-on conservative in other ways. So yeah, whether this will just be lip service or anything will actually happen, but I mean, it is good that it's being... I can't say that they're not aware of it. Let's put it that way. Anyway, moving on. Netflix considers Warner Brothers games to be pretty much worthless. Same. Anyway, Netflix co-CEO Gregory Peters told investors on an investor call that when it came to Warner's gaming division, it didn't even factor into the $83 billion deal. They're relatively minor compared to the grand scheme of things. The grand scheme of things being film, TV, production, all the other IPs that come with it, and so on. Now, this isn't necessarily surprising coming from Netflix. Kotaku do point out that, like, there's billions of dollars in revenue coming from just Hogwarts Legacy all by itself. Not to mention the other franchises that they own, the Lego games, the Mortal Kombat games, and so on. I would point out that revenue isn't profit, but what have you? Anyway, so continuing with CEO, while they definitely have been doing some great work in the game space, we actually didn't attribute any value to that from the get-go because they're relatively minor compared to the grand scheme of things. Now, I'd say it's not necessarily surprising. As much as it is demoralizing to hear that, it's not necessarily surprising coming from Netflix because they don't know what the fuck to do with video games. Netflix has spent years trying to work out how to make money through video games and only failed and failed and failed again. And there's various links there showing you all the times Netflix have failed to do video games. They did the same thing that Google tried to do, stick their foot in and be like, oh, we're Google, we can do anything. Of course we can do video games. We can get a slice of that Genshin Impact pie. We can get a slice of that Call of Duty pie. And then Google Stadia crashed and burned hilariously. Netflix trying the same thing. It's hubris, thinking that video game production will be the same as film and TV production. They're all just productions, right? They just make a product at the end of the day. How hard can it be? Hard. Much, much harder. Way harder than both of those. Anyway. However, this again coming from Kotaku. Who's writing this? That's John Walker. It's the curmudgeon again. Anyway, this speaks of some quite spectacular short-sightedness given the lucrative nature of so many of WBG's licenses. We're talking specifically about their video game licenses here. as opposed to their obvious other ones, like the DC Comics stuff and Lord of the Rings and various other things Warner Brothers have. We're super excited because some of those properties that they've built, Hogwarts is a great example of that, have done quite well, and we think that we can incorporate that into what we're offering. Incorporate that into what we're offering. Now, they're not saying add Hogwarts Legacy to the Netflix app, because it just wouldn't work. Your phone would explode. The what we're offering, yeah, is a key phrase here, considering Netflix has kind of gone all in on mobile games, which suggests to me that they're gonna take those licenses and just make mobile slop games. That's what it sounds like. Which again, not great. Certainly makes sense to see Netflix is getting in the deals, opportunities when it comes to its casual gaming development. Hopes for further entries in Rockstar's Arkham franchise seem unlikely to be met, let alone the new owners reviving what Warner Bros. Once did best with game series like Shadow of Mordor, Fear, and basically all the things that came out of Monolith. So yeah, like, they're not dead yet, but like, I don't think they're long for this world. Hopefully, like, the most we can hope for out of this is that they get spun off into their own thing. Netflix sells them to somebody. Now, who they would sell them to is the real problem. Because I can't think of anyone who would have the money to buy them that I would want to buy them. You've seen what happened when Embracer bought a bunch of studios. Didn't end well for them. Microsoft are pulling back, really, from acquisitions, and they're like hemorrhaging money. Not hemorrhaging money, but they're so deep in debt with Big Daddy. Sorry, I would say Xbox are so deep in debt with Big Daddy Microsoft that they're not going to be doing any acquisitions soon. Nintendo aren't going to want anything to do with those kind of licenses. And wouldn't even need the licenses, because it's not like they could buy Rocksteady and get Batman. Because Warner Brothers would own Batman. They own the DC licenses. So, you know, what would you be getting? Again, you couldn't buy Avalanche Studios, develop Hogwarts Legacy, and you're not going to get Hogwarts. You're going to get the studio who made it, but you're not going to get Hogwarts Legacy. You're not going to be able to, you know, make your money back on Hogwarts Legacy 2 kind of thing, because Warner Brothers own the license. So who would you... I don't really know where they're going to go with that. It's pretty scary for those devs, I would think, at the moment. Anyway, I'll leave Skate's story to play in the background. Anyway, that was your news for the 8th to the 14th of December, 2025. The Game Awards, some interesting things there. A lot of the things that I like the look of are almost purely CG trailers. And some of them are years away. Like Fate of the Old Republic, as much as Casey Hudson is saying it'll be out sooner than we think, I still think it means 2029, really. It's a long way off. Control Resident, while I like the look of it, I'm not sure I like where it's going with the story. And I think from the looks of it, they're taking it outside of the Federal Bureau of Control. And I think a lot of the charm of the first game was the shenanigans going on in the building in the first place. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Then again, I didn't know how I felt about the game initially, like the very first game, and it turned out to be really, really good. So, you know, who knows? I could be wrong about that. Anyway, next week, potentially we'll be doing something different for the weekly news recap, because typically there's not a ton of news over the Christmas break. So I might take that time to do the 2026 games coming in 2026 video. Or I might just take a break. I don't know. And just enjoy the holiday. I'll enjoy as much as I enjoy anything. But yeah, I don't know. Basically, this is me saying there may not be a video next week, but there will be the 2026 video, either early next year or in place for the news video this week. Anyway, that is it from me though for today. So have a good rest of your day or week or whatever. And I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.